amazing. From my cousin, something about the hallway between Gracie's and Haven, so all those crazy drunk ladies can take selfies.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Tuesday, May 15th, 2018 meeting of Middletown City Council to order. If you please stand and join me in the moment of meditation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Gank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vittori. Here.
Mr. Bohannon. Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Mayor Mulligan.
Here. I'll entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Bohannon. I know he's away on family vacation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Gank?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vittori.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Our next item of business is a public hearing this evening regarding a map amendment, case 2-18, a request for zone changes by the city of Middletown for a total of 63 properties located between Central Avenue, between South Sutphen Street and Schaefer Street, between South Sutphen Street and Edgewood Street, from B1 Neighborhood Business District to B2 Community Business District. Per the Butler County auditors, the properties, there are a total of 12.29 acres. Ms. Combs, good evening.
Evening.
I won't reread that again since Mayor Mulligan covered it. So the proposed map amendments were recommended to you all for approval by the Planning Commission on April 11th. This was due to the proposed zoning change meeting the intent of the master plan as well as the Middletown Development Code. There we go. Okay, so the project background, the City of Middletown recently adopted a new development code and it became effective March 1st. As a part of the planning ordinance update, all the city's zoning districts were renamed to reflect modern zoning practices. Now that the development code is in effect, the next step is to ensure that zoning districts are being used to meet the future land use goals for the city. Go ahead, next slide. So here is a location map / zoning map. You can see the proposed 63 properties are there outlined in red. Some notable landmarks are Combs Barbecue, Stefano's Italian Cafe, and Dollar General. You can also see downtown Middletown to the west there, just giving you a proximity of how close that we are to downtown there. So, next slide, please. Per the city's zoning map, the properties are surrounded by R4 residential homes to the north, R4 residential homes to the east, B3 general business to the west. That's encompassing existing businesses there. R4 residential homes to the south. The proposed B2 zoning district is intended to be located in close proximity to areas categorized as major residential areas. For the city's development code, the surrounding R4 residential area is the highest density for any residential zoning district in the city. The current businesses and uses located in the district are consistent with those permitted in the B2 business zoning district that is proposed tonight. One of the main inconsistencies that were found with the existing zoning district of B1 is Stefano's Italian Cafe and Combs Barbecue are restaurants that have liquor permits, and alcohol is not a permitted use in the B2. And they are both now located in that B1. Per our future land use map, the properties are desired to be mixed-use commercial. Mixed-use commercial that is identified by the plan encourages pedestrian activity and to offer a variety of restaurants, offices, and retail stores. Planning staff believes that the requested zone change will benefit the surrounding community and existing businesses in the district. The zone change again meets the intent of the development code and city's master plan. If approved, the B2 zoning district would be an appropriate transition from the abutting B3 business zoning district. that concludes my report. Do you have any
Okay.
questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Combs this evening?
I do have a couple questions. So what do those two restaurants do if the zone change makes them?
They were permitted, I believe that this was a blanket rezone many years ago, and they permitted a part of that. It's just an inconsistency with our code now. So it was a permitted use when they both applied back in the day, which was several years ago for their permit.
They wouldn't have to reapply.
So-
No,
but-
they would not.
I understood. So moving to a B2 though
Yes.
makes it a permitted use.
Yes, it would just kind of clean up
So
that
the new one
inconsistency.
cleans it
Okay,
up. Yeah,
cleans that
so,
up.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Then my second question was, if by chance we have to take down a house, a small demo of one of the residential properties, would there be an I don't see single-family homes as a permissive or conditional use. We wouldn't be able to rebuild that,
That's right. So even in the B1, residential homes are not a permitted use. It encourages and allows only commercial on the first floor and business on the second floor. And that would still hold true with the B2 zoning. No change there.
Any other questions for Ms. Combs? All right,
you.
thank you. All right, since this is a public hearing tonight, I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone to speak in opposition to the proposed map amendment case. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the proposed map amendment case for the zone change? Okay, is there anyone to speak in favor of the proposed map amendment? Anyone to speak in favor of the proposed map amendment? Okay, hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed, and we'll move on with the rest of our agenda. I have a couple guests this evening. I'd like to invite Warren County Sheriff Larry Sims down. Good evening, Sheriff.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see everybody again. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to come out for at least my annual visit, I guess. And I know I also appreciate the flexibility because I had a family emergency a couple months ago. I had to switch that around, but we appreciate the relationship that we have with the city of Middletown, especially with the police department. They allow us, like in our profession, to just become more effective. As you know, you see that in your city as well, that we're doing things together, and it certainly helps all of us in the long run. So we value that very much. I shared with you our typical end-of-the-year report, and what you see in there is, what you see statistic-wise that we had occur in 2017, the information you would typically see in the end-of-the-year report, services that we provide. So certainly not going to go through that. There's a few things I do want to mention that were significant in our county. Warren County had 3 homicides last year, and that's not heard of. I haven't talked to anybody yet over there who's ever had such a thing. All 3 of those were drug-related, independent of one another. One ended a trial not too long ago here outside of Carlisle. There was basically a shootout between people and vehicles. We had a woman beat to death in the village of South Lebanon, her husband almost by relatives over money to get drugs. And we had a drug overdose in one of the hotels in Deerfield Township that we struggle with oftentimes with prostitution and drugs. And charges are pending now against the trafficker, the seller of that fentanyl, if you will, as I know that the city has been dealing with as well. We added a K-9 to our jail last year. We've never had one. We certainly are feeling the same issues inside of our jail that we do in our community. The smuggling of drugs have caused some overdoses inside the facility. It's oftentimes you can use your imagination as to how they smuggled in, but we have been successful in locating some of those drugs once they get into the housing units. We had a K-9 retire and in the process of replacing him. And then we, as an agency in our county, started carrying Narcan. Our deputy sheriffs did a year ago this past February, and I know that's not uncommon for a lot of agencies and other communities to do that. We were the only law enforcement agency in our county for a long time. I think there's 2 more in the process of doing that now. And even in our 70 unit dosages that pales in some numbers to other communities, it's still significant relative to what's going on there. And it did bring 54 of those individuals back, as I know that your city and your EMS and police have experienced a number of times. So there is some value in that. And then lastly, I'll just update you on our jail situation. I've been coming here this is my 10th year in office, so I'm not sure the voters have really wised up on me yet, but I do appreciate their support. You've been listening to me talk about the overcrowdedness, releasing of people, and we've still been going through that. Well, we are now. There is a jail on the horizon, and you probably saw in the news the commissioners passed the sales tax increase that began in January, which will pay for that new jail. We have a meeting set for May 24th that is supposed to decide the location of it. We're very hopeful that it will be in our complex. There's some space issues for the size of the facility, but I think they have some good ideas how to accomplish that and still allow for growth. So there's an architect on board. They added a construction manager firm last week. So we're now going to get to talk real about how to build it, where to build it, that kind of thing. So we're excited about that, even though it's still, by the time you get in it, it's still 2.5 years away. But there's an end in sight. And with that, I'll just kind of, if there's any questions you have, again, I just appreciate the opportunity to come over and share a few things and see if there's anything you have for us.
Okay. Any questions for Sheriff Sims?
Just one. Sheriff, with the recent tragedy in Cincinnati has brought to light maybe some deficiencies in the Hamilton County dispatch and maybe the various municipalities. Can you just comment maybe on what Warren County is doing with regard to dispatch, and is it unified?
Well, the dispatch center is a 911 center directly under the commissioners. They are not attached to our office. They are a countywide dispatch center. Not knowing all the details, in there, I certainly am not interested in commenting or critiquing it because I don't really.
No. It's just strictly on Warren County and your.
But I believe that the men and women that are staffing those facilities are trained very, very well. I think technology these days have certainly improved those opportunities for them to provide good service. If there was a mishap, I don't know what it would be. You're still talking about people doing their job, but I think they really do just a tremendous job in trying to obtain information from people that are calling in. And I hearing little bits and pieces about, how that call come in and whether you can hear it, whether you can't hear it. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, but I think they're a good group of people. Oftentimes, I say this only because for years, I've had more experiences even before I become sheriff, that sometimes those people doing those jobs, it's difficult for the average person to understand the difficulty in that center. It can be quiet as a church mouse, and 30 seconds later, the phones are going crazy, and you're dispatching fire and police. And so it's just, you just continue to work hard. You just continue to work hard like we do, and you guys are on public service too to get it right, and hopefully we get it right. And if it isn't right, then how do we fix it? How do we improve it to go forward? And it is very tragic. I think we all feel for that family and that young man that lost his life, but we've got to be right up front about what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen again. So,
thank you. Anything else for Sheriff Sims? Well, thanks again for coming down. Appreciate your partnership with the city, and thanks for your service.
thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next, we have some guests from the Midpoint Library System. I'd like to invite Ellie Della Boa down. Did I get that down? Okay. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Mulligan, Vice Mayor Moon, City Council. My name is Stella Tompolitas, and I am the manager of the Midpoint Library, Middletown. With me is Ali Dalboa. She is the team leader of the youth department. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes of council's time and report on last year's products, stats and services. In your handouts, you'll see our stats from last year. 2017 was a year of progress and transformation for the Middletown Midpoint Library. We evolved to accommodate our community who utilize the library by offering more products and services. Last year, we had over 220,000 patrons who visited our library, and we circulated over 466,000 items. Many of those items were from our new special collection, such as mobile Wi-Fi hotspots that patrons can use and access the internet from their home for free, to educational kits that include a telescope, microscope, and more. With over 46,000 internet users, our use of the public computers has remained strong as well. As technology continues to advance, more books are being read in digital formats. Music and movies are increasingly being seen as downloadable products. The library's digital and downloadable collection allows us to continue to offer services to meet the expectations and changing needs of the people we serve in our community. Last year alone, we circulated over 2 million digital items. We issued over 6,000 individual library cards. We also introduced a new e-card, issuing these to students in local schools to give them access to Midpoint's collection, and even if they're unable to physically get to the library, it allows the schools to stretch their budget by allowing for library materials to supplement the classrooms. Along with the library cards, last year was our first full year of offering passport services. We issued 89 passports in Middletown alone. Recently, we redeveloped a space to create a local history and genealogy gallery. The space is dedicated to showcase the history of our area. We have a new 7-inch touchscreen monitor that hosts interactive, curated history exhibits. We have expanded our digital archive and local history collection in the Middletown branch. We have archived over 15,000 unique items consisting of digital history, photograph, atlases, and yearbooks, specifically the Middletown High School Optimist from 1913 to 2013. We are currently working on curating over 1,300 slides of the City of Middletown collection, and we're working towards preserving a variety of material related to ARMCO. And now, Allie will brief you on the youth programs and the community involvement.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to give you a brief update, like Stella said, about our youth services role in the community. Last year, the Youth Services Department presented 333 programs at the library with 5,715 participants. We also visit Middletown City Schools, local daycares, and we collaborate with other community organizations to visit them as well. We collaborate with the Butler County Educational Services Center, and we go out to the preschools that they have around town on a monthly basis to read story times to them. It's been ongoing for years, but it's a really great way for us to connect with the parents and the students in the schools, and we get a good response sending home summer reading information to them as well. We are part of a play group at the Robert Sunny Hill Community Center 2 times a month, and that is a good way for us to connect with those families that reside close to us too. Our summer reading program runs June 1st through July 31st every year and was a huge success last year. We held 104 programs and we had 2,897 participants. We are also a site for the summer food service program, and in 2017 we more than doubled how many lunches we served from the previous year. We began this program in 2016, and we have had the opportunity to serve thousands of families in that time frame. If you're not familiar with the summer food service program, it's presented by the USDA and ODE, and through that we get a sponsor. They bring in a caterer, deliver us lunches Monday through Friday, then we get an hour serving time where anyone under the age of 18 gets a free meal, no questions asked. So it's a really good community service that we can provide at the library for them. That runs about the first week of June through August. And then, as Stella mentioned, we introduced a new type of library card last year, which is that e-card. And so I just want to give you a little bit more information about that. This is a card that we sent out to the classrooms. So we contacted the teachers and told them, we could get you digital resources. That way, if your kids can't come to the classroom, they really want that book, they have that opportunity. So they can get ebooks, audiobooks, and they also have access to our digital databases. We first offered the e-cards to the 6th grade and higher age group, just because we figured they were the ones that needed those resources a little bit more for like the research papers that they need to write. But we had a huge response, and so we actually ended up going to more of the older elementary grades as well. Overall, we gave out 1,158 e-cards to students, and we had a tremendous response from the middle school and the 6th grade Highview Center, so it was fantastic. While we were doing that, we had a great response from the teachers, but it was more exciting for me personally to get that great response from the students where they've been dying to read this book, they can't get to the library, they can hit a button and they have it at their fingertips. So it's been really exciting all around. And this concludes our stats report, and we want to thank you for your time and also your support.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. All right, I've received no comment cards this evening, so we can move on to our agenda. Next item is executive session, so I need a motion at authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, and under the authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for sale of property at competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage. And lastly, under the authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22G4, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Ms. Campers, call the roll, please.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
All right, final executive session. We'll be reconvening here for our consent agenda and the remainder of our agenda. So we're headed down to the conference room.
Just a reminder, we'll need a vote to come out of executive session.
You say so. Not quite an hour. Good to go? All right. Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting back to order. I'd like to entertain a motion to come back out of executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Gank, call the roll, please.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
All right, continuing on with our agenda from May 15th. Next item is our consent agenda. Ms. Gank?
For consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from May 1st, 2018. Receive and file board and commission minutes from the Civil Service Commission, February 22nd, 2018. To confirm the promotional appointment of Jeffrey Kren to the position of Fire Apparatus Operator, Public Safety, Fire Department. To confirm the personnel appointment of Patricia Todd, Animal Control Officer, Public Safety, Police Department. Christopher Ward, Mechanic, Public Works, Municipal Garage.
Okay, we have a motion for the approval of the issues and actions listed on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Ms. Gank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
All right, we have one motion item to consider on our fact finders report. Ms. Cohen?
Yes, Your Honor, we are in possession of a fact finder's recommendations dated May 14th regarding the fire negotiations with the IAFF. At this point, within 7 days of issuance of that report, we would need a vote to affirm or reject the fact finder's recommendations. So I'd ask for a motion to either accept or reject the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for acceptance or rejection of the fact finders report?
I move to reject the report.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments? Ms. Gank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
All right, the fact finders report has been rejected.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that brings us to our council comments this evening. Mr. Mulligan?
No comments this evening, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vettori?
No comments either.
Mr. Moon?
It'll be quick this evening. None for me either.
Well, I'll have to make it up then. No, there's nothing going on. No, all sorts. No, I want to acknowledge we have Broad Street Bash coming up and kicking off another summer season. I think this is 11 or 12 years. I've lost track. It's been going a while and doing well. We also have the police memorial activities on Thursday evening at the Eagles, and then a ceremony at the Woodside Cemetery. That's always a special event, and appreciate participation in that. And had the opportunity to participate in the middle school science fair today. That was a good, well, I won't say experiment, but a good, good activity. I got to interact with a number of kids, 7th, 8th graders there, and appreciated that. And then also the Special Olympics was conducted. We had a good day for that back earlier in May here, and that was a great, great day for a lot of students. And then two things related to kind of high schoolers. Marshall High did a community partnership appreciation dinner last Thursday evening. The Chamber and the city and a few different organizations were recognized for their partnerships there at Marshall. And then the Chamber sponsored a career fair, which I think was very well attended by not only Middletown students, but by the other area cities that represent the schools. And the opportunity was to introduce high school and middle school students to potential careers that may not necessarily require a degree beyond a high school degree. And then a couple upcoming events, just to mention, the NTE ribbon cutting will be occurring on Tuesday, the 22nd. So it'll be a big day with a capstone of a $700 million project. And then the Cincinnati State board meeting, actually that's on Monday. NTE's on Monday. Cincinnati State's on Tuesday. Got to keep it all straight. Didn't write down those dates. But Cincinnati State board from Cincinnati will be coming up to Middletown to conduct their board meeting. It is a public meeting. They're encouraging folks to show up and express appreciation and support for the local activities of Cincinnati State here in Middletown. It's been, this is the end of their 5th full academic year. So pretty significant milestone. So a few things going on, but not a whole lot. Thank you for indulging me. So, and with that, Ms. Cohen, we can move to our legislation.
Thank you. We have 3 items for consideration this evening. The first is ordinance O 2018-19, an ordinance vacating various easements granted to the city of Middletown on a portion of city lot 19943. This is a second reading.
Ready for action. Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any other discussion or comments? We had a number of presentations on this. Okay, Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
The second matter is ordinance O 2018-20, an ordinance amending sections 624.02, trafficking in controlled substance, gift of marijuana, 624.03, drug abuse, and 624.16, possession, manufacture, and sale of drug paraphernalia of the codified ordinances. This is a first reading. By means of a report, in 2016, the ORC was changed to move a mandatory license suspension for certain drug offenses to a discretionary suspension. It was also amended the paraphernalia statute to change some of the degrees of paraphernalia possession. These changes bring our code in line with the state code.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Cohen? Thank you. And our last item.
The last matter is ordinance O 2018-21, an ordinance changing the zoning classification for various parcels located on Central Avenue from B1 Neighborhood Business District to B2 Community Business District. This was the matter from the public hearing earlier where you heard from Ms. Combs.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one question about that. When that is brought back next time, will that be an emergency or will it be just?
I don't believe it'll be a straight second reading.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, here none. We'll be in recess until June 5th, 2018 in these chambers. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.